the world's leading authority on the pyramids. Today, he lives in Oxfordshire.
The star shafts, as I'm calling them, were directed onto certain stars. The idea being that the spirit of the king could use them to reach those stars. I think the oldest and most important, perhaps, was the northern star shaft. That was directed at the circumpolar stars.
Jesus was the eastern star.
Very great importance to the circumpolar stars.
So David was the western, I believe.
The Egyptians called them the indestructibles, the Ikhal-Sek.
The
So the basis
indestructibles.
of the star theory has eminent backers. Does the modern British Museum Authority agree?
The pyramids had a stellar connection. This has been known for a very long time. And as I understand it, one of the shafts certainly lines up with the constellation of Orion. So yes, it's quite possible there is significance in this.
The pyramid texts tell us that the king had a boat in which he used to move around among these stars. They don't tell us what he did when he got there, but at any rate, obviously, they were desirable places to be.
The shafts
They found the boat like a couple years after that.
There are some people who feel that they have a purely practical function, that they're ventilation shafts.
For they were
There are
fishermen.
others who believe, and Ball and Gilbert are among them, that they have a ritual function. This is also consistent with what we know about the Egyptians' beliefs.
They were channels to the stars. They were
Fishers
going to
of men.
assist the soul of that king to join Osiris and become one and live in this celestial kingdom next to the celestial night. That's what it seems the most logical and ritualistic purpose of the shafts.
In spite of Beauval's certainty, this 8-inch wide hole seemed destined for
Only if walls could talk.
until a dramatic new development.
But they
This is a
can.
little robot U-plant, and it's very tiny, very small.
What? All over the world.
Very small, because the shafts are very narrow. My approach was to bring in high technology in the archaeological field, and I mean, we made the proof for it that this is successful.
Like Carter's discovery of Tutankhamun before him, the epic journey of this tiny robot received newspaper coverage all over the world.
Now, the initial fruit of this discovery proved one thing, one very important thing.
What?
That the Queen's chamber was not abandoned. Now, why? Because Rudolf Gantenberg had taken his robot 60
Yep.
meters deep into the core of the pyramid, the southern shaft, well above the floor of the king's chamber. That was definite. That chamber was not abandoned. So it had to have a purpose.
What? What's the purpose? What are the pyramids for?
The Egyptologists tell us, of course, about rays of
They're
sun
called, they're the
coming down.
three kings, dude.
Everything we see about the pyramids is to do with stars.
Jesus said he is the chief
First of all,
cornerstone.
they're lined up so that
Whoever
they're
shall fall on that
exactly
stone
aligned
shall be
with the
broken
north
into
star,
many pieces.
coming down from the north and pointing
It's
out
pointing up.
south
It's not
towards
pointing
the sun
down.
and stars.
Because they are
Secondly,
used for jails
we
also.
know that from the pyramid text that everything in them is about stars and about pharaohs wanting to go
Not
to
the ones that are
stars.
pointing up.
They even had star names. Now, there is something baffling about this plan that we see, these three pyramids that we see on the ground. Three pyramids next to each other, two of almost identical size, in diagonal alignment, and yet this was a puzzling question. The third pyramid was much smaller and offset to the left. It just didn't make sense. Now, if you were Ben-Kaura, a powerful pharaoh, as powerful as the other two
Only
pharaohs,
begotten son.
previous pyramids, why would you build a smaller pyramid? And indeed, why would you offset it to the left? There had to be an explanation, and the explanation seemed to us to be with the stars.
Come on, they did it
We
in
know
North
from the
America too,
pyramids
dude. There's
that the
Nibiru.
pharaohs saw themselves as the latest incarnation of Osiris's son, Horus. He was seen as a living god, but Beauval and Gilbert wondered how, after a pharaoh died, he could be a god in the heavens and a god on earth.
What's an
as Osiris
Horus?
had been. Mummification was part of the answer, as this was clearly intended to preserve his body for eternity. The pyramids seemed
Yes,
to be
Shra.
connected with both, sending the pharaoh to the stars as part of an elaborate stellar rebirth ritual, and somehow being the dead pharaoh on Earth. Boval chose a dark and freezing night to continue telling me his ideas. He took me out into the desert in order to see the stars in all their glory.
With all this, we had a tantalizing web of complex ideas. But I was getting nowhere. I couldn't find an explanation for this odd anomalistic plan of the three pyramids of Giza. And yet there had to be an explanation. And then, on a night like this, I was in the desert, camping with some friends.
Having gay butt sex.
I got up and stood there on the dune. And a friend of mine joined me. He was a yachtsman. And he was trying to explain to me how to find the star Sirius in the sky. And he pointed to the stars of Orion. There they were, 3 stars in a row. And he explained how they were directly above Sirius. And then he said, actually, the stars are not actually in a row. The top star is slightly offset to the left. And there I had it.
What did Jesus say? There are 3 kingdoms. He said there are 3 kingdoms. The first one is heaven. The second one is holy. The third is the Holy of Holies. There are 3 kingdoms. And Jesus said, only few shall get into that one. The Holy of Holies.
Looked for a wider plan.
It's very
He
important.
started with Egypt's most obvious feature, the Nile. He looked at where the 3 pyramids were in relation to the Nile and the angle they made with it, and compared them with the position of Orion's belt in relation to the Milky Way. It then occurred to Boval to look at the other 2 existing pyramids of the 4th dynasty, which were built for unknown reasons some miles away from Giza.
No one talks about those.
Boval discovered from original graffiti that the first one at Abu Ruwash was also named after a star.
Abu Ruwash? Abu Ruwash. That's too much.
The second one was built 3 miles from Giza at Zawiat al-Arian.
Arian.
He then looked.
Huh. We got 3, 4. I got 3, 4, 5th angel.
At the overall pattern and was staggered. Osiris was the constellation of Orion. Therefore, Osiris on Earth were the pyramids of the Giza area. The Egyptians were attempting.
As there are another pyramid and another pyramid right here too. So that'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, 7. 7 spirits, 7 eyes, 7 churches. Sit by the throne of God.
To build no less than heaven on earth.
As this is written in the Bible, as what is above, so is below.
The theories of Boval and Gilbert, coming after decades of research into ancient Egypt,
And it's
are
from like
radical.
1990.
So what of the experts? The initial reaction of the academic world was surprising.
Pyramids, in general, are not very popular with Egyptologists because I think they're too plentiful. There are about 100 of them. And also, I think they've acquired something of a bad name because they've attracted so many cranks.
I must confess, I've never been somebody fascinated with the pyramids, although of course as a student one studies them. It is a curious thing. The Great Pyramid has this power over people. In my view, it has the power to destroy common sense.
Yes, it does.
We are ready to hear everything about the pyramids. We have pyramid power.
Always look at people's
We
eyes.
have
If they're
pyramid
dark,
artists. We have people who are thinking not
Lecturer in astronomy, and wife
Say
of the now
goodbye.
retired astronomer royal for Scotland, Helen Brooke.
dark eyes say it all.
One of my
Liars.
husband's predecessors, Charles Piazzi Smythe, a very distinguished and clever man, who was Astronomer Royal for Scotland for 42 years. He did a lot of excellent work in laboratory spectroscopy as well as astronomy. But he had one eccentric streak, and that was his firm belief in the symbolism of the Great Pyramid of Giza, which he thought had been built under divine inspiration. At the
Duh.
time also, there was a very strong
Who could
movement, sort of
move 100
mechanical movement.
Ton granite stones
There were
and
people who worried about the
middle to the
Imperial
top of that
Revolution.
pyramid.
There were people who worried about the findings of the geologists who said
We
that the
can't
Earth
do it
was
now, not
absolutely
even
over and
close.
so on. And they were a bit worried
As
that
they would build one
authority of the
themselves.
was being undermined. Now, the theory was that the pyramid was built with labour of the Israelites when they were in captivity in Egypt, and that though the
You did help.
building was a monument or a tomb to a pharaoh, that hidden in it was the design which was inspired by God.
Yep.
The cult of the pyramid is still very much
It's in our
alive,
Bible, all the way
and
out.
I think myself that Piazzi Smythe had a lot to do with it.
So
Where do you
here
think
in
built
the
those? The
snowy
devil?
wastes of Scotland was the source
The
of much
devil
of
doesn't
ridicule
exist.
Pyramid ideas are subjective. But are Bobal and Gilbert part of this pyramid cult, or are they held back by Piazzi Smythe's legacy?
It's
To
not
me.
completely inconsistent with the Egyptians' belief about the afterlife and the way that they saw the stars having a function in this. But I think too much is read into that in this case. My own view is that the position of the pyramids had just as much and perhaps more to do with geology and existing topography.
Jean Carousel has applied his knowledge of rock substrata to the Giza Plateau. He's not so sure that the reason for the offset of the small pyramid is connected with the terrain.
I don't think there is any rational reason from the topographical point of view for a non-perfect alignment of the three pyramids. The line going through the centers of the two first pyramids is not going through the center of the last one, the Menkaure pyramid. There is no obstacles concerning the relief. I cannot explain why there is this anomaly. There is certainly another reason relating probably to astronomy. And I think personally that the layout of the three pyramids has been designed from the very beginning by Khufu.
There are lots of pyramids in Egypt. There was only one pyramid. Of course, the greatest are these.
Shut
And
up.
enduring another lesson in astronomy. This
There's a
time,
Big Dipper and a Little
including
Dipper.
the northern stars.
Alright.
Other constellations, Orion for example, disappear for 70 days every year. They die. This is because the Earth is circling around the Sun, and so the portion of the stars that the spinning Earth reveals each night changes. Each of these lower stars was welcomed back by the Egyptians when it reappeared, as you'd welcome back a departed soul or a god that had been away for some time.
like a cube.
At dawn, just as the stars are disappearing, you get a glimpse of a new star which has been out of sight for 70 days. This was the dawn rising, or helical rising as it's called, of that star. It was reborn. The Egyptians knew the day of its birthday from their calendar, and the exact moment by observing the northern star clock. And all this brings us back to the angles of the two shafts from the Queen's chamber. It seems that not only were these pyramids of Giza a representation of the heavenly kingdom above, but also they were the ancient Egyptians' version of a sort of Cape Canaveral, with the ability to propel the soul of a pharaoh with pinpoint accuracy
Jacob's
to
ladder.
distant destinations in the sky.
There it is.
To understand why, we need to go back to the pyramid texts and the Book of the Dead. New translations of the pyramid texts tell us much about how the pharaohs regarded themselves. They saw themselves as part of a direct line going back to Osiris, the first god-king who founded Egypt. They were his embodiment. They were god-kings. And each pharaoh attempted to reenact the life and death of Osiris.
Well, they live 1,000 years. As will
When a
reign
pharaoh
1,000 years
died,
of Christ.
He was mummified in the same way that
Alright,
Isis had
this is new.
reconstituted
They
Osiris.
added this crap.
They were then encased in a splendid outer shell to look like Osiris.
Stole it.
This gold sarcophagus of Tutankhamun is the most magnificent example that has so far been discovered.
Copycat.
These papyri of the Book of the Dead in the British Museum tell us of one of the great ascension rituals that would
These are
have
pretty
followed the
old.
preparation of the mummy. This was known as the opening of the mouth ceremony.
Alright. This is added. Okay. As the beast, known as Dark Horse or Black Horse, holds up the Pharaoh. They bow down to the Pharaoh. They give him gifts. This one claps. This one brings other gifts. This one brings a leopard gift to it with the anointment of incense. But really, they think that he's the king, but he's the false king. Jesus is the king. And there, it's just really the beast that was holding that one up. And they bow down to him. That one's easy. There's spirit. That represents the spirit. Spirit also. But really, that king's is dead. Like a Nephilim. Held up by the
His
tail.
consort and his
Baphomet.
still mortal son must cause new life to stir in him. This had to be done at an exact moment.
Right there, that represents the moon. Because there's one that's red that represents the sun god. Also represents the water of life. The Nile River. And it's on Google Maps, you can see it. And it goes through where Giza is. And if you don't believe me, look at my other videos.
At the dawn rising of Orion. The pharaoh must be reborn as a god. Beauval and Gilbert imagined that this most dramatic and ceremonial moment could well have taken place in the Queen's chamber. The son and the wife of the dead pharaoh performed this ceremony with an adze in the shape of the Little Bear constellation. This was often made of meteoritic iron. At that time, this was their only source of iron, and it was very important.
So they didn't have iron back then, they used copper.
Every now and then, they saw meteorites come thundering down through the sky.
But they found
To the
iron in the
Egyptians, it was real evidence
pyramid.
that the star world existed.
It's all a bunch of
This
lies.
strange iron substance occurred nowhere on Earth, and they thought it was a dribble of semen from the gods. This led them to think that the gods also had iron bows.
I mean, who can imagine just exactly what would have happened?
They said that because they don't break bones.
The costumes that they would have been wearing, the sense of excitement, the wailing women dressed like Isis, and the dead Pharaoh in his coffin is stood upright.
ISIS. Get out of here.
Air comes in, the Pharaoh is alive.
A new life were very important to them, and god kings were required.
Alright, what they did, they put him in the pyramid, and the water of life would come in, and then he'd be reborn, just like Jesus. That's what Jesus did too.